Hi, Saxophone fans. This is Steve Goodson, and I am speaking to you from our ultra top secret command and control bunker located at Saxophone World Headquarters here in the Upper Garden District of Old New Orleans, the birthplace of jazz. And tonight's topic, and this is the first one of our seminars that we're going to be providing to you at no charge, is about saxophone maintenance. And I'm going to talk to you about maintenance that will involve only stuff you've already got. You don't have to go out and buy a whole lot of expensive equipment, tools. Boy, we're drawing quite a crowd. Hello, Chad. Hello, Madhav. Madhav is the Saxophone People's Commissar. We're back. Sorry about that. We're having a terrible thunderstorm right now, and so I guess the internet may be going up and down, and I can't control that. Paul Coates, who is chairman of the Saxophone Posse, just joined us. Hi, Chad. All right, now I want you to think about something. When you're in a musical situation and people are there playing assorted instruments, the trumpet player is not going to be playing a 100-year-old trumpet. The clarinet player is not going to be playing a 100-year-old clarinet. But the saxophone player may very well be playing a horn that's approaching 100 years in age. How could that be? And the way, hey Donna, the way it could be, and there's my brother too, the way it can be is that saxophones, if properly maintained, will almost last forever. And that's what we're going to talk to you. Okay, we're back again. I'm sorry, I cannot control the internet. We're going to start up the top of the horn, and the first thing I want to tell you, and I had a couple of students here today, and I had to get on both of them because they didn't have the plug in the top of their horn when it was in the case. And that is potentially going to end up with a very expensive repair when you bend that octave mechanism. Now, these things are cheap. You can get them at any music store. You can get them online. So if you have lost yours, go get one because it's absolutely essential that you keep that plug in there at all times. Now, since we're starting at the top of the horn, let's talk about maintaining the neck. And that's a good place to start. And I just happen to have the neck from the brand new Saxophone Super 400 Series 2 baritone in solid copper that I want to use to demonstrate this. One of the things that commonly happens to saxophones, to all saxophones, is you start having trouble with the cork. Now, this is stuff that grows out of the ground, and it will tend to break down on you over time. And so what we've got to do is figure out how to solve some of the problems with the cork. The first thing we want to do is we want to promise that, Steve, I solemnly swear I will never, ever use cork grease again. Did you hear me? Don't use cork grease. Here's why. You know what that stuff's made of? Bet you don't. Well, I do. It's made of beef tallow. In other words, you're going to rub that down with some beef fat and hope it doesn't rot or break down the cork over time. Well, maybe that's not such a good idea. So we're going to talk about some options. Option would be to replace it with a better material. But first I want to talk about what happens to all saxophones. You put the mouthpiece on the cork, and over time, the cork compresses because this is spongy kind of stuff. And when that cork compresses, you see guys and they've put a wrap of notebook paper around here so the mouthpiece will go on here tight. And it looks terrible, and they never get a good fit. So let me tell you what to do about that. Take your neck, put it in a glass of water, let it sit overnight. The cork will absorb water. And then get out that beautiful Conair blow dryer you got that keeps us all looking like English rock stars. You know, English rock stars are the best rock stars. And don't you think I look like one? But anyway, take that blow dryer and warm up the cork. Use a blow dryer now. Don't use a heat gun. Use a blow dryer, because that'll get it just warm enough, and that cork will expand back out, and it'll fit like it did when it was brand new. Now, I told you not to use cork grease, and I meant it. Cork grease is bad for your cork and bad for you, and bad for the cows too. So what you should do is go to the hardware store and spend 89 cents and get a roll of that white Teflon plumber's tape and put just a single wrap around here up to the point where your mouthpiece usually goes. Now your mouthpiece is going to go in different places, different days, but you know, cover that here, one wrap, and that stuff will stick on its own. You don't need to use any glue. Teflon, slippery, protects the cork. You're not going to tear the cork because you're not going to tear that Teflon. Teflon's pretty strong stuff. So that is going to solve your problem. Ray Mayfield. Hey, Ray, how you doing? George Briscoe. George used to work for us. So anyway, that's what you need to know about that. Now, one other thing, I'll give you an option if for some reason you're opposed to Teflon. Some guys I know, and I used to be one of them, used to take ordinary paraffin, melt it, put it on the cork, and rub it in. And that'll kind of hold the cork together and give you good lubrication. Okay, let's talk some more about the neck. And here's something that all of you knuckleheads do, or a lot of you do, that I see all the time, is they use one of these fuzzy neck saver things. You know what I'm talking about? What a dumb idea. What a dumb idea. Now, you ought to swab out your neck. After you're through playing, you need to get all of that moisture and nasty stuff out of there. Giles Davis, how you doing, my friend? Giles is a great entertainment lawyer, one of the best in the business. And if you need entertainment law advice, you go to Giles Davis. But anyway, that fuzzy thing is going to leave fibers in there. I've cleaned out 1 million necks that had those fuzzy little fibers in there. It's a dumb idea. Get yourself a silk clarinet swab. They're not expensive. They're not expensive. So get yourself a silk one and just pull it through there. Judy Faslaw, hadn't seen you in a long time. Hello, beautiful. So anyway, that'll be good. Now, another thing about your neck, just between us, is that the neck tends to stink. It does. So on your silk swab that you got, get some of that Febreze, you know, the odor killing stuff that's cheap, you can get anywhere, and you just shoot the swab with Febreze. Donna has a question. We keep Teflon tape on all the time? Yes, ma'am. Once you put it on, don't you take it off. Patricia Glickman. I love Patricia Glickman. She's a wonderful, wonderful girl. I've known her for many, many years. She's a hot-blooded Mexican gal, but, you know, I love her. And Richard, greetings to you from Detroit. So anyway, there you go. Now, here's something that all you guys let me down on. The tenon, the part that goes in the receiver, the tenon on your neck tends to oxidize because it's bare brass. If it wasn't bare brass the day you bought the horn, it will be from putting it in and out. And then, let's be honest with each other, it tends to be turn green. You know, it's got that stuff, that patina stuff. So what you want to do is you got to get rid of that patina. And the best way to do that is take some 6/0 steel wool that you can get in the paint department of any good hardware store, and you can take that and it will remove that patina. Just take it with a light pressure and it'll clean it off pretty as you please. Now, don't you ever put any oil on this. Never. Because if you do, the oil will attract dirt, and grit. And before long, that stuff will get in here and start grinding out your neck receiver. And you don't want to know what it costs to get a Ronald, how you doing, buddy? You don't want to know what it costs to get a new receiver put on your horn. A lot of money. No, you cannot use Listerine, Ronald. We'll talk about your question in a minute, but no. All right, so we got this nice and clean. Now, I want you, while you got your neck clean, I want you to remember that the attachment to the body is a two-part proposition, so you have to go in here and you got to make sure that the receiver is equally clean. That's essential. Now, my brother David, who is also, he was a saxophone player, and he is also a rocket scientist. When you say you smart as a rocket scientist, well, I want you to know my brother David is a rocket scientist, and a damn famous one too. But anyway, here's how what you got to do. Take the neck with a light physical pressure, put it in the receiver, and rotate it a little bit with the screw loose, and just see if the resistance is different one way or another. And if you feel resistance someplace, then what's going to happen is you're going to know that the tenon or the receiver or both are not round. Now, they're probably pretty close. So what we have to do is lap those into perfection. And here's how you do it with stuff you got at home. Now, I use, full disclosure, in my shop, I've got fancy lapping compound and all that. You don't need that. What you need is some toothpaste. And I recommend white Colgate toothpaste. I don't know why, that's what I've always used. Oh, we're back. I'm sorry. We're having a big storm. You wouldn't believe what I spend on Wi-Fi routers, and so I know we get a good signal. And we get a good signal. Randall Pennington, hello, buddy. But anyway, you put just a little bit of toothpaste in some water, and you spread it very evenly, very thin coating. Put this in the receiver, and then rotate it and lap it into perfection. Then, once it's lapped in, and the resistance is the same 360 degrees around, then what you have to do is clean all that up very well. Paper towel and some water will do that nicely. No, Chad, you're not going to change the bore diameter that much. I don't believe that affects playability if you get it right. Bubba Harding. Hello, Bubba. All right, so that's what you need to know about the neck. Now let's talk about the saxophone body. Cleaning the interior is just like the interior of the neck. Don't you dare use one of those fuzzy swabs. Don't you do it. Throw it away. Get yourself a nice silk swab, and you can get them that have like a brush inside, and the swab goes over that, and you drop it in there and you pull it through, and it does just a really good job. Once again, you can use some Febreze on that if you want to. Okay, now once we got the interior of the horn cleaned real well, let's talk about the tone hole tops. Now, if your horn is lacquered or plated, same thing's going to happen. As the pad comes down and contacts the tone hole top, over time, lacquer or the plating, or both, since most plating finishes today have clear coat, are going to wear off. And what have we got? We got bare brass. And what does bare brass do when exposed to moisture? It patinas. You get that green stuff we talked about earlier, and that green stuff is mildly adhesive. And you were wondering why your pads stick. People say, well, my pads stick because, I ate a whole bunch of cotton candy before I played the gig, or I had too many shots of Booker's bourbon, and it made my pads sticky. Let me tell you something. Sticky pads are almost never, ever the problem. Now, if your pads are truly sticky and got nasty stuff on them, then what you got to do is you got to take the horn apart and clean those pads off. Don't you dare use a solvent like alcohol, naphtha, any of that stuff. Don't you do it. You wouldn't do that on a fine pair of leather shoes, would you? It'd dry the leather out, make it crack. So if you got to take your horn apart and clean those pads off so they don't stick to the tone hole tops, then you got to take a horn apart and use saddle soap. And here's the best thing, here's something you need to know. Don't go to the hardware store and get one of them little screwdrivers that long, you know. You'll never get your horn completely apart. Get yourself a real screwdriver, okay? I've got a full set of these in assorted sizes, but this will do for most of them. You can get something like this at most hardware stores. And then you can torque those long rods out and get them loose. Also, it's a good idea to, at least once a month, go through your horn and tighten up all the screws to keep one from falling out and embarrassing you. I was playing a gig up in Baton Rouge one night with some high-dollar guys, and it was a big deal, and it was the first time I'd ever played a gig with those guys, and they was paying me a lot of money. And so I step up for my solo on some tune, and my entire octave mechanism fell off because the screw backed out. And I was chasing parts all over the stage. So anyway, we were talking about tone hole tops getting sticky. Here's what you do. Now, I want you to listen to me completely about this. I want you to go to the paint department of a hardware store, and I want you to get some emery paper. And I want you to get some emery paper that is at least 1,500 grit. 2,500 grit if you can get it, but they all carry 1,500 grit. And then I want you to cut that emery paper into a strip about as wide as your index finger, about that long. Now here, understand, we got paper on one side, we got mildly abrasive stuff on the other. Now, 2,500 grit paper like this is less abrasive than your toothpaste. Did you hear me? It ain't gonna cut your tone holes down. So take this stuff, put it between the top of the tone hole, pull the key down, hold it down with your finger, and pull the paper out. And be sure that you go 360 degrees around. If you'll do that once a week, your pads will never stick. Never. Never. 1,500 grit or above paper, and that'll do it. So another thing you're going to observe when you're trying to clean up your horn is that if Casey, my favorite client, and Casey, I'm sorry I didn't call you back today. A client was in here buying mouthpieces, and you know how that goes because you bought plenty of mouthpieces from me. But anyway, people look at your horn, and you look particularly on the upper and lower stacks where all that mechanism is and the springs and all that. And it's got all these dust bunnies and stuff in there. Here's how you get that out. Get yourself a soft paintbrush, and just get in there and work it. You're not going to hurt anything, and it'll do it. To clean the exterior of your horn, if it's lacquered, then I use Windex on a paper towel. Not much Windex. And a Q-tip with a little Windex on it to get in the tight places. Now, if you've got a plated horn that doesn't have a clear coat, then what you can do is you can go to the hardware store and get Flitz, F-L-I-T-Z, polish, which is, Flitz is the best polish I've ever found. And you take just a little bit of it, not much at all, put it on a paper towel, and you won't believe what a beautiful job it does on any plated finish. It's unbelievable stuff. It's kind of pricey, but you can get it at Ace Hardware. Now, full disclosure, in my shop, we use so much of it, we buy it by the kilo. But it's really good. By the way, you guys feel free to like this, and you guys feel free to share this. It ain't costing anybody anything, so, let's spread the good news around. Now, once you've got the exterior of the body nice and clean, we want to keep it that way. First, I want you to look for any scratches that have penetrated the clear coat. Okay, thank you for the likes. We could use some more. If you find a scratch that's gone all the way through the clear coat down to the bare brass, you got to do something about it, because air will get under that scratch and it'll spread oxidation like a cancer. So you got to do something about that. You can fix it with, you can get brush-on lacquers. That's maybe hard to use, and you don't have access to that. But you can also get just a little bit of clear fingernail polish, and that'll seal it. Just don't use much, just use a little, because you just want to seal the wound. All right, now, once you got everything like it ought to be, here's one more thing before we do the final step. If your horn's got nice engraving, like a Sax Gourmet, and you really want to make that stand out, here's what you can do. Get yourself some, we use kiwi shoe polish. Ordinary plain variety, kiwi shoe polish, black. Heat up the horn with that hairdryer. Now I use a heat gun, but use the hairdryer. Get it nice and warm, not where it burns your hands, but nice and warm. Put some of that kiwi, not much, on a paper towel. Wipe it over the engraving. Get it in the grooves of all the engraving, and then warm it up again and wipe off the excess. You may have to polish it just a little bit after it sets, but then it'll make your engraving look sharp and really stand out. So there you go. Now, the final thing is, after we get all this stuff done, you want to seal the whole thing, just like you want to take care of the finish of your automobile. And since the clear coat used on modern saxophones is the same stuff that they use on automobiles, you didn't know that, did you? But that's the truth. Then go to, AutoZone or someplace like that and get yourself some super high quality automobile polish. We use Meguiar's, but we used to use a brand called Finish 2000, but we think Meguiar's does a little bit better. And just polish it just like you do your automobile. And the main thing we're trying to do is we're going to try to seal the finish. And of course, it make it shine a little better too. Yeah, Ron LaVila. I miss seeing you, buddy. This guy is a great Latin saxophone player. Oh man, I could listen to this guy forever. And he used to be a student of mine too. You ought to come back and get some more lessons. But anyway, let's talk now a little more about the pads. Now, I want to emphasize that the cause of sticking is rarely stuff on the pads. It's that adhesive stuff on the tone holes, and I've already told you how to take care of that. So let's examine the pads. If they're old, then feel them with your finger and see if they feel kind of dry and hard. Okay, if they do, we got to do something about that. And the thing you got to do about that is we got to restore them to being supple again. And if the pad is not torn in any places or cracked, then you can make it supple again. Now, we do sell a product for doing that. The product's on our Nation of Music site, and it's called Voodoo Pad Juice. And Voodoo Pad Juice is for restoring old pads. It'll make them supple again. It will also reduce sticking significantly, and it's got one more benefit. Like all of our key oils and pad juice and our Never Stick pad powder, all of those smell like hippie girls. They got patchouli in them, and the reason they smell like hippie girls is because hippie girls, in my experience, are well-known friends of all saxophonists. Well-known. And we want to encourage hippie girls, and our products that Voodoo Pad Juice, Steve's Bourbon Street Key Oil, and Mojo's Never Stick Pad Powder have been shown to actually attract hippie girls. So they'll fix your horn and get you some hippie girls. All right, so those pads, need to be flexible because they got to come down on those tone holes, kind of grab hold to a degree. Now, it's important that if you're having trouble with pads sticking and you've cleaned those tone holes off, you want to be sure that you don't have saliva being absorbed into the pads. Why? Because saliva, boys and girls, is a digestive juice. You want to digest your pads over time, you will. So we got to do something about that. We make a product, and this is not really a sales pitch, but it is the truth, to repel moisture from your pads. And here's the thing. You don't want a product, and I'm not going to name names, but I'm going to tell you that somebody's pad powder that's commonly sold, matter of fact, two somebody's, big companies that make saxophones, their main ingredient, cornstarch. What do? It absorbs moisture, it stays on the pad, it gets lumpy, and it causes little bitty leaks. Mojo's Never Stick pad powder makes the pad repel moisture. Doesn't stick to it. So saliva doesn't get in the pores of the leather, and it doesn't digest the pads and break them down over time. If you'll do that, your pads last a lot longer. Now, if your horn's been played a lot and you got older pads, one of the things you can do is you can re-iron the pads. Now, if you don't know how to do this and you don't have a set of pad irons, and I'm not talking about, I read something on a repair discussion group the other day. The guy says, well, I use a butter knife to iron pads. Are you kidding me? If I ever go in somebody's repair shop and they take out a butter knife, I'm going to slam my case shut and run for the door. You need some real pad irons with a hole in the middle so it clears the resonator. What a knucklehead. And you take a butter knife, and how does it go all the way around and give an even pressure? But if you get some pad irons, you can iron the pads, re-iron the pads. You can make that leather taut as a drum head, and boy, your horn will feel great. You can also, over time, you can reset the pads by warming your horn up with that hair dryer, having everything wedged down and all that, and you'll be amazed how much better that will. Here's a couple other things about using, about your pads that are important. Gerald, how are you? Gerald lives out in the Houston area. Gerald has a Mark 6 Barry that's just like new, except I overhauled it for him a couple of years ago and put some kangaroo pads in it. But I mean, cosmetically, that thing looks like new. He opened the case and I was like, whoa, this thing's brand new. All right, but anyway, back to your pads. One of the things that's so important is to use key clamps, okay? Here's why. Number one, key clamps prevent the keys from moving when the horn's in the case, and you walking around with it and those keys are fluttering around. Do you think that's really good for them? Do you really? What kind of idiot are you? Key clamps will keep the keys in place so they don't move, but more importantly, the key clamps keep the same seat on the pads at all time. The same seat. And that means your horn is going to play the same every day. Did you hear me? Every day. The pads swell out due to changes in temperature and humidity. They're different every day. But if you use key clamps, that'll go away. So, if you can re-iron your pads from time to time, that's a great idea, and almost nobody does it. And if you must use key clamps. Now here's one other thing, and this is an absolutely must thing to do, and almost nobody does this. I do it, but Casey Light don't do it. It's 4 a.m. Casey just finished his gig, and he's tired, and he'd been sitting at the bar for an hour having him cocktails. And I know that about Casey, but he knows I love him. But anyway, he wants to go home. Before you put your horn in the case and before you put the key clamps on, what you have to do is take a paper towel, a cocktail napkin, a handkerchief, or you know, anything that's absorbent, and blot each pad. Blot each one dry. If you'll do that, those pads will last almost forever. If you leave the saliva on there, it's a digestive juice and it'll break them down. But if you will blot those pads dry after every gig or every practice session or just any time you play the horn, you'll be amazed at how much longer your horn, your pad's going to last. Hey, Keith, how you doing? Keith's got a couple of Saxophone Maintenance horns. He's a great guy, too. All right, now, let's get over to something kind of controversial. I hate to say I read on the internet, because I don't believe most of what I read on the internet. I mean, there's folks out there say the earth is flat and all kind of other crazy stuff. By the way, we could use some more likes and some more shares, so you guys go ahead and feel free. Anyway, I read somewhere one time where a guy was saying, and this was a repairman too, or he claimed to be a repairman. I guess he's trying to generate some more business, because what he said was, you should never lubricate your horn. It's bad for it. Are you kidding me? Let me ask you something. How would you feel about maybe going outside and draining all the oil out of your automobile and then driving it? Does that sound like a good idea? Folks, if it's machinery, needs to be lubricated. Did you hear me? Needs to be lubricated. Now, any of you Rod Berry, hello, buddy. Any of you who have ever taken a saxophone apart knows that once you get the steels out of those tubes, then what you're going to find is there's a layer of black gunk on those rods. And if you take a pipe cleaner and run it through the keywork tubes, which you ought to do every time you have your horn apart, a bunch of black gunk's going to come out. And what is that? That's what's left of the oil that you put on there, or somebody put on there, and the volatile components evaporated. And when those volatile components evaporate, that just leaves that black tarry stuff. So listen to me about this. You should lubricate your horn once a month. And you need to put 1 drop of high detergent key oil, not 3-in-1 oil, not trumpet valve oil, but high detergent key oil at every gap in the keywork. Every gap. And you need, see that? That's a little hypodermic needle that's on a bottle of key oil. And this is a bottle of Steve's Bourbon Street key oil, and smells like hippie girls. But if you put a high detergent oil on there, then what's going to happen is this. After about an hour, and then go practice, go work on your scales for a while. After a while, what's going to happen is you're going to see that black gunk is going to come out from between the gaps in the keywork. And just take a paper towel or Q-tip or both and just dab that off. But you want that stuff out of there, because that black stuff is adhesive, and it'll slow down the action. You'll be amazed how much better your horn will feel if you keep the interior of the keys clean and use high detergent oil. Don't use anything else. All right, now let's talk about your springs. You should keep your springs always coated with oil. And we use the same key oil, and we put just 1 drop on every spring, and it'll run down those needle springs, and it will coat it, and that'll prevent it rusting. Rusty springs are a real problem here in New Orleans because it's so humid. Bernard Jean up there in Canada, hadn't seen you in a while, buddy. He's another saxophone owner. But keep a good coating of oil on all those springs. Now, for all of your spring nipples, and I'm talking about the part on the rod where the needle spring grabs, here's a trick I learned from James Hewlett, the classical tenor player. Take some grease, heavy grease, and put just a dab at the point where the needle spring lies in that nipple. Now, the grease that we use for that is not bacon grease, even though we're in the South. The grease we use is, I go to Walmart and I buy trailer ball lube. And you get a big can for about $1. And it's a lithium grease that's got Teflon in it. And I take the tip of one of my screwdrivers and I just put a dab on every spring where it contacts the rod. And man, it quiets down the action just as pretty as you please. So don't forget that. Now, also, don't forget to oil all of the rollers, you know, on your E flat, C, on the low B flat, all of that. So go ahead and oil all of those, and you know, because they'll lock up on you if you don't. Okay, now we've talked about a lot of stuff. I hope you took notes, but this little chat will live on the internet for a while, and you know. Hey Rick, thanks. I appreciate your kind remarks. Here's one other thing I want to talk to you about, and that's about getting good cases. Now, if you've got one of those vintage horns and you have the original case, here's something you damn sure better check out. You better make sure that the padding in that case has not compressed and that it holds the horn absolutely tightly and it does not move a bit. Now, if it does move and you want to keep the original case, and that's okay, take it to a luggage repair shop and get them to replace that padding. And you may want to get it relined at the same time, but they can do that. We have it done for clients all the time. So be sure that your case fits tightly. Now, if you got a gig bag, I'll assume that your repairman gave it to you. Because he was just trying to generate some more business by giving you that. Did you hear me, Casey? Are you listening? About that gig bag. Casey's got this Reunion Blues leather bag that he's had since right after the earth cooled, and I can't get him to quit using that. But anyway, gig bags are a very poor idea. Get the best case you can afford. Now, you're safe from me because I don't sell cases anymore. But money you spend on a case, a good case, is money that you are not going to spend at the repair shop. So you go out and get the best case you can. Now, if you play a tenor or a baritone or a bass, get real, folks. If you have to travel by airplane like I used to all the time, you better get yourself an ATA case. And that means one that you can put under the plane. Don't count on being able to talk the airline into letting you put that in the overhead. But, you know, they're not going to do it. They don't have to. They don't have to do a damn thing. Donna wants to know what brand of case I use. And those of you who know me know that I have a matched set of multicolored Walt Johnson cases that fit inside Anvil cases. And really, the plane crashes, my horn's going to survive just fine. Unfortunately, Walt Johnson no longer in the case business. So you can't get them anymore. So the BAM cases look pretty good to me. But I think if I was going to buy new cases now, I would just contact the Calzone Case Company, which is who makes the Anvil cases, and get them to make me some Anvil cases that just held my tenor and my bari and my bass. Now I used to have an Anvil case for my bass, and I will tell you, it was the size of a phone booth. And all right, we're back live. I'm sorry for the interruptions. I can't control the weather. I've been trying for you. Eric Satterley, the Dean of American Repairmen, and up at Meridian Winds, I want to tell you something. That guy is a master, and he's my buddy. He's been my buddy for a long time. So don't anybody say anything to me ever bad about Eric Satterley, or I'll deal with you. But anyway, I think seriously, I would get Anvil Cases. I just hadn't seen anything on the market lately that impresses me. Other than that, now one of my students had Mike Manning make a fabulous case for his Barry, and I mean it was beautiful work, and I can't recommend it highly enough. I think you could retire the national debt of several third world countries for what that cost, but he got an expensive Barry. He got a brand new Yanni Barry. So, you know, Don, I'm not sure. I'm just a radical believer in Anvil Cases. And like I said, I've got them that my Walt Johnsons fit inside. Yeah, you're right, Richard. Eric Satterley rules. And what a nice guy. So, that should give you a good overview of maintenance that you can do yourself. And if anybody has any questions, my office phone number is on my nationofmusic.com site, and you can call me during business hours. And if I'm free, I'm glad to answer any questions. We also have an Ask Steve section on Nation of Music, and you can type in questions there. I'd rather you didn't message me on Facebook, simply because I get too many of those things, and I'm getting input and questions from so many different directions. I'm always glad to talk on the phone when I have time and don't have a client here. So at any rate, that just about covers it, and I'm happy to answer your questions. So if anything I can do for you, let me know. Everybody remember a couple things. You got to practice long tones every day, and remember to keep your reed wet. So this is Steve Goodson, and I'm telling you, I love you all. I appreciate your business, and we'll talk to you again. We'll do another one of these seminars.